Thank you for joining us for this sermon podcast from United Church on the Green, located in New Haven, Connecticut. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are invited and welcome. If you enjoy this podcast and would like to learn more about our open and affirming ministry at United Church on the Green, please visit our website at unitednewhaven.org. Thank you.
The reading today is Luke 15, verses 1 through 10. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Does he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me. I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me. I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there's rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. God is still speaking.
Would you pray with me, please? Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your presence, for you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. One thing we know for sure, that coin didn't lose itself. It didn't jump off the table, leap itself out of the jar, slide itself through her fingers while she was counting her change. It didn't decide it was tired of being undervalued and roll itself off into some shadowy crevice. It didn't smudge itself with dirt so it wouldn't glint and sparkle in the glow of her lamp. It didn't seek out the collection of dust motes or cat hair and bury itself underneath. I mean, it's an inanimate object. It's a coin. It can't be the coin's fault that it was lost and hard to find. Maybe her pocket had a hole in it. Maybe the floor was slanted toward that crack in the corner. Maybe the lighting wasn't good. Maybe the couch had that annoying tendency to swallow up anything that slipped between its cushions. One thing we know for sure, that coin didn't lose itself. What about the sheep? Now, the text doesn't give us any details. Nowhere in the parable does it say anything about the sheep's motives or reactions as the story unfolds. We don't know what any of the sheep thought about the whole situation. To whatever extent sheep have thoughts, I'm told that sheep's brains are not all that big. But I wonder, was it a foggy day? The kind of fog where you can't see past the hood of your car when you're driving down the road? The kind of fog that would swallow up the wool of the other sheep in the blink of an eye? Did that one sheep look away at just the wrong moment, and when she looked back, her friends were gone? Did she wander over hill and dale, bleat for help until she could bleat no more, try with all her might to make it back to the fold? Or did that sheep stumble on a loose stone and crack his hoof or bruise his knee? Did he limp along as fast as he could for a while, following the herd that would not wait for him? Did he fall further and further behind until the others vanished over the crest of the hill and disappeared? Or was the sheep feeling a little frisky that day? Did she frolic off, chasing butterflies, and get caught in the moment and find herself further away than she'd realized, unsure of where she'd ended up or how to find her way back? Or was the sheep feeling a little persnickety that day? Did he sneak away on purpose? Was he tired of being shorn? Tired of laboring for his humans? Or did an unscrupulous shepherd's apprentice or a jealous sheep-herding neighbor come and surreptitiously close the gate of the pen before all the sheep were back, hoping to pick off the stragglers before the shepherd noticed what had happened? I wonder, did the other 99 sheep have a thing or two to say about their shepherd leaving them all there to go after the one who was missing? Even if they were safely in their pen, even if they were protected from the jackals and leopards and foxes that prowled the open countryside, even if they were well supplied with food and water while their friend was out alone in the desert, even if they had a warm barn to lie down in while their cousin was wandering through brambles with only cold stones for a pillow, even if the shepherd left a colleague in charge of the herd while heading off on the rescue mission, what did those 99 other sheep say when the shepherd left in search of the one? Did they say, why all this fuss about that one sheep? I mean, it doesn't seem fair to spend so many resources on that one, even if it is the most vulnerable. What about the rest of us? Don't our lives matter too? Don't all sheep matter? Did they say, I would understand extending yourself for that sheep if she were better looking, if her coat were smoother and evener and whiter? I would understand if she had more marketable skills, if she would contribute something to the farm economy, if she produced the most milk or bred the best lambs, or maybe grew a golden fleece, but a poor scraggly sheep like that one, she'll just be a burden on the rest of us. Not worth it. Did they say, how do we know that he was really one of us? Wasn't he the one who had only just joined the herd? He wasn't from here. Did he have his papers in order? Are we sure he isn't a terrorist or a gang member? Better just leave him out there. We don't need his kind. Did they say, well, she should not have gone off by herself. Doesn't she know better? A cute little lamb like that wandering off alone, especially with her wool in that provocative style. Really, she was asking for it. Did they say he didn't have to flaunt it like that? I mean, sure, maybe he was born that way, but why did he have to be so flamboyant, so in your face about his, well, lifestyle? Did they say, you know, she dropped out of school to join the herd early. What do you expect if you don't finish your education? She should have worked harder instead of looking for handouts. Did they say, I heard he had drugs in his system. You know he had a conviction on his record. You can't trust sheep like that. I'm sure there's a good reason why he's lost. Don't bother looking for him. One thing we know for sure, that coin didn't lose itself. The sheep, on the other hand, well, we're not so sure. And so I wonder, why is it so easy for us to assume the intrinsic value of a coin? A small piece of metal, an inanimate object that bears the imprint of a human face. Knowing how we humans are fallible, knowing how so many of those we see as heroes, Washington and Jefferson and Jackson and so many others, so many of those whose faces are stamped on our coins and bills have histories much more complicated than the ones we learned in elementary school. Knowing how the thing we're talking about or holding is merely a symbol of value, not something valuable in itself, why is it so easy for us to assume the intrinsic value of something that humans invented in our own image? And so hard for us to assume the intrinsic value of someone God created in God's own image, a human soul, a human body, a living, breathing, incarnate imprint of God's own reflected face. Why do we humans have this all-too-human tendency to blame the victim, to find faults in the person who is suffering, to explain their misfortune away because they somehow brought it upon themselves, to look for character flaws and use them as justification for whatever befell that person, all the more so if they carry one or more marginalized identities? I wonder, what would it take for us to live a little more like the Good Shepherd in this parable and the God he represents? What would it take for us to stop asking questions about whether a person deserves to be found and instead get busy organizing a search party? What would it take for us to stop justifying or diminishing the suffering inflicted by racism, by misogyny, by homophobia and heteronormativity and poverty, and instead get busy dismantling those systemic injustices? And what would it take? What would it take for us to believe way down in our bellies, down in the depths of our bones? What would it take for us to believe, really believe, that when we are the ones who are lost, who are lonely, who are afraid, who are hurting, when we are alone in the desert without shelter or water and we do not know our way back to the fold, even if everyone says it's our own fault, even if we believe it's our own fault, even if maybe it is our own fault, what would it take for us to believe that our friends, our cousins, and our Good Shepherd, our God herself, will come looking for us, will comb through as many briar patches as necessary, will follow as many faint trails through the brush as it takes, will endure as many tight scrapes as needed, even if the search seems hopeless, even if everyone else has given up, even if they have to spend more on lamp oil than they think we are worth, they will search the world over. They will not stop searching until we are found. And when we are found, they will lift us gently in strong arms and lay us carefully across sturdy shoulders and carry us home rejoicing like the most valuable coin in the entire treasury, the most precious sheep in the whole flock, the greatest gift ever to be received. Amen.